Today's interview is with FED, the founder of Printr. Printr is a cross-chain launchpad that has recently gained traction as the #2 launchpad, with their V2 launch introducing proof of belief staking and competitive fee structures. We discuss with him what they're building and their vision for the future. Okay, guys, welcome back to VibeTrading. Today I have on FED, who is the founder of Printr. Printr is a cross-chain launchpad, effectively, that does a bunch of cool things and has been, doing really well, especially as of the last week, where it's pretty much risen to around, I'd say, the #2 position as far as launchpad success. Is that fair to say, FED?
Yes, Nico. We've been very lucky and quite shocked by the recent success we found with our V2 launch last Tuesday. Since we launched, we've been in second place right after Pump every single day. And I think we're slowly gaining traction and we're coming for #1.
Yeah, it's great to see. I've been seeing you guys build and, spoken to you guys for a long time. Maybe give the guys who aren't so familiar with you guys, firstly, maybe you and yourself, how you kind of got to where you are now, and maybe the origin story behind Printr.
Yeah, absolutely. So hey everyone, I'm FED, the founder of Printr. We're building the first omni-chain launchpad that's also we believe to be the most configurable launchpad. We let everyone launch a token with all of the core parameters to be customizable. You can choose, how much fees you want to charge, different fee types from, staking, buybacks, add liquidity to creator. You also can customize, starting market cap, graduation market cap, liquidity profiles. The idea is that, we believe that as we go into the world where crypto is really becoming massively adopted, people will probably want to launch tokens for different contexts. There isn't exactly like a one-size-fits-all solution, as we see with current launchpads like Pump Fund. Like the needs of a startup is going to be different than the needs of a charity, than the needs of the meme coin. And we wanted to democratize token creation because, we think that's really important to be able to let people create tokens without doing lots of technical work and be able to control how they want to launch the token, where the fees goes. So that's really the premise of Printr V2. When we first started, the thesis was quite different. The thesis back then was that 2 years ago, it was a very different landscape in crypto. We were there was new L1s, L2s being launched every other day. And it felt very clear that we're going to this world of hundreds of blockchains. And, the original thesis is that tokens or meme coins, they just grow faster with more distribution. So if you can meet users where they are on more different chains, the token will likely grow faster. We saw a few examples of this, like OmniCat at the time was the fastest growing meme coin ever. It was on something like 7 or 10 chains, reached 200 million market cap within 24 hours. So, that was kind of the cross-chain thesis. Unfortunately, we've been building for well over a year. And when we launched, it was after 10/10, and it was very much a low liquidity environment. So that omni-chain thesis hasn't played out. So we really went back to the drawing board and said, in this kind of single chain context where activity is consolidated on Solana or BNB, what are the really pain points that traders are facing, and what do they care about enough for them to try out a new launchpad? So that was kind of the genesis of the V2 launch.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I think that the fragmentation of liquidity is like a double-edged sword, right? It both seems like something that you can serve across many chains, but it also potentially can harm a lot of these tokens. But funnily enough, the #1 token, and the one that is probably the main reason you guys are getting a lot of interest right now, is the belief token, which is a function of you guys introducing a new mechanism for devs whereby the holders are able to basically stake the token for a set amount of time and in return get a share of the creator fees. How's the reception, I guess, been from that? And I think I've seen some other people try to propose this kind of mechanism. Why do you think it started to work now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the model of the Printr V2 is proof of belief. And the reason why we called it proof of belief is really after one of the more innovative fee types that we introduced, called proof of belief staking. And what we're trying to achieve here is to kind of bring back the good old days where, people actually held tokens for longer than 10, 15 seconds. And people actually believed that tokens can be like billions of market cap, not the current situation where things usually top at like 5 mil or under, right? And our our thesis was that like the market has fundamentally changed because with pump fund and on these launchpad platforms, we're not incentivizing the right behaviors. Like with these trading terminal launchpads, there's fundamentally incentive misalignment where traders have no reason to hold more than a few seconds. And usually if they do, they get dumped on. So we have conditioned all these new generation of on-chain traders to hold only for like 10, 15 seconds at max. Otherwise, they might lose all their money. And there's no incentives for them to hold for longer periods of time. So proof of staking is meant to like fundamentally change that. When you stake a token for longer, you get a higher multiplier. So you directly get more of the fees. And if more people are staking, it sends a clear signal to the market that more of these traders have belief that this token can survive for a long time and go higher. And we think that creates kind of a flywheel effect where the more you stake, the more conviction and a signal it sends to the market. And then the more people will actually like buy into this thing because it has a higher ceiling. And if more people buys this thing, it creates more fees, which goes to the stakers and incentivizes them to stake for longer. And that's really what we've seen played out so far. With the belief token you mentioned right now, it's been less than a week. It's at peak went to like 15 million market cap, which is a lot for the current market condition. And we see almost 50% of the supply stake, most of it between like 90 to 180 days. If you talk to trenchers before we launch, people will be like, you're crazy. Nobody wants to stake meme coins. Nobody believes anymore. And I think what we've seen that is the market is ready to believe again. It was really during that era where people believed that meme coins did go to billions and when people did hold for like long periods of time and like beg work. And that's exactly the kind of like behavior that we're trying to bring back here.
And I guess also touching on some very current meta stuff. For example, recently we saw Unk, airdrop a bunch of supply to holders. Are those the kind of like mechanisms that you would maybe also want to like build into the launchpad, or any other interesting ones that you can disclose, even if they're maybe not live yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we've of course been following the airdrop meta. There's been quite a few tokens on top of Printr where people have the exact same thing as Unk meta, where they cornered supply, and then they airdropped it to a lot of like the core ecosystem participants or traders on FOMO. And this isn't exactly like a high priority on our feature list, just because you can already do it on top of Printr. Like it might just be a bit more manual. But also how we think about Printr is that we aren't going to be the ones who build out all the features. We really see ourselves as like an infra layer and people can build on top. We have like very robust like APIs, SDKs, and even MCP server for agents for people to build these type of features on top. I know there's like quite a few like teams who are building like additional like pro deployer tooling on top of Printr that has these feature set covered. So we try to not overlap there. On our roadmap, we have a ton of exciting stuff coming up. So, first of all, we have received tons of feedback from deployers and traders just the last week that we're already actively deploying. Like, one of the changes we pushed last night was we thought we wanted to cap the max fee to be 1% post graduation, because we thought if it's more than that, it's too taxing to traders. But what we heard from both traders and deployers is that, if it's higher, like at something like 2%, it's not actually something that the market will hate, especially if the fees flows back to the community, whether it's via staking or buybacks. So we quickly pushed that change because that's what people clearly wanted. We also heard feedback that like the anti-ban feature is a great idea and great direction, but isn't great for trending topics. Because if, for example, like, the Asteroid token, people couldn't have really launched a proper token on Printr if, the first person that hogged the ticker did a bad or greedy deploy. So the new logic we're building in is that the anti-ban only kicks in once it hits like a volume threshold, such as like 100K. So this way, basically, we protect the token that's doing well and actually has the most momentum, but still encourage like healthy competition in the beginning.
And I guess also talking about competition, you spoke about things like the proof of belief, obviously maybe could harm like your protocol from like a fee standpoint if it means that in some ways you're getting less volume, but hopefully you end up like growing the total pie as a result, and things go better that way. Do you have any critiques or things that you think are kind of like being done unjustly, or not as well as they could be by like, either by Pump Fund or any other launch pads that you feel like Printr is kind of like, going to be able to address in the future?
Yeah, I don't really ever want to, badmouth our competitors or anything like that. We're
Yeah,
really
I'm
just
not trying to
focused
make you a
ourselves.
hater or anything, just like more so commenting on the current state of the trenches and memes and trading these things on chain.
Yeah, sure. I think the current market structure is just very extractive. And we made a very conscious decision to not be part of that. Like, for example, right? We all know right now the fees are very high. Pump Fund charges more than 1% for anything over under 10 mil market cap, sometimes even higher than that. Trading terminals are charging another 1%. So for most traders, you're being taxed more than 2% per trade, right? Let alone the additional things like slippage and all that type of stuff. So it's no wonder that over time, the space is getting smaller and smaller and people are running out of money, right? And I just don't think that's sustainable. And we very much knew we could have like charged the same high exorbitant fees and probably just made a ton of money in the first like week or two or whatever, but that it's probably not sustainable. And we're very proud that we chose to have the lowest fee structure in the industry. So Printr only charges 0.2% flat fee when a token post bonds. This compares to the over 1% that Pump charges, and even Bonk, classic mode, which is the second lowest fee is like 0.35%. What does charging a low fee mean? Charging a low platform means two things. It means directly that we're giving more value back to creators because to traders are being taxed less. And for creators, they now have more room to add on additional custom fees to incentivize whatever behavior they want, whether it's like buybacks or staking or adding to liquidity. And that flows back to the ecosystem. And it's one of those things, right, where we believe if the fees are less and more is going back to the ecosystem, there will be more growth of the ecosystem. And if the pie is growing longer, even if we take a smaller cut, that creates more longevity for both Printr as well as the space as a whole. And we also think this will create further competition that hopefully causes like Pump Fund and the rest of the space to react to it, which should just make the overall launchpad segment and on-chain trading healthier for everyone.
I think that also a lot of like the current trenches are concerned around, are people who are currently not on CT and trading gonna like trade these coins basically? Um, are you guys, actively doing anything on the marketing side when it comes to attracting more of these like retail style traders? Are you partnering with anyone in particular? What's kind of your strategy looking like there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the long-term vision, which I don't think we talk about enough, is we don't really see Printr as just another launchpad or just, focused on meme coins. From the very start, right, our thesis was that Printr is building token creation, uh, a token creation primitive that's core to crypto, because we believe the token is a product in crypto, as we talked about earlier. And as long as people use crypto, people want to create tokens. And as we have more and more people using crypto, more people want to create tokens. And this is much more than just about meme coins or launchpads. I think like launchpads today have like really horrible stigma, right? Because of what Pump has done as the first mover and what has happened with a lot in the last few years. And it's fully understandable. And I think a lot of like retail has like now shied away from it because of this negative stigma. And what does that mean for us is like we see the path as we first sharpen, refine the product so that it's good enough for CT, for on-chain traders who are like more crypto native. And then we take it further and broaden out to retail. I think like if it's a product that like, crypto natives and on-chain traders really love, then it's much easier to further grow the distribution and onboard retail. But to answer your question, the goal is absolutely to grow the pie and reach everyone, right? But to do that, I think there's still a lot of work to be done and a lot of experimentation to have on the product side.
And I guess also maybe compared to some of the like, I don't know, just as a launch pad, like coming in here trying to compete with the rest of the market, you guys were pretty public about, raising from a bunch of different guys and having support from a bunch of different ecosystems, given that you initially were going for this like multi-chain launch pad approach. It'd be good to maybe give people some context on like your backing, your support, like who you're connected to and, who's kind of helping you to make Printr into what it hopefully can become?
Yeah, as you're asking this question, I realized I didn't properly introduce myself. I just introduced Printr at the beginning. So quick background about myself. I'm Fed. I'm the founder of Printr. Before this, I was leading the BD team at Axler for 3 years. So I've been in the street for quite some time. Prior to that, I was leading the go-to-market team at Ripple. I started my career in strategy consulting, taking more of a traditional path, and then doing some corporate strategy and biz ops roles in between. But given my time in the industry and my time at Axler, I was lucky enough to have quite a great network, great relationship with many of the leading foundations, as well as many VCs. So, and that also gave me more of the omni-chain perspective. So, when I pitched the original idea to the Axler founders, they thought it was a great idea. And they were actually the ones who wrote us the first check. And then, through their help, we were able to raise a pre-seed at 20 million. This was like what? October of 2024. And that was like a party round. We had many foundation participating from like Axler, Flow, Sweet. We had like big DeFi founders like Sam from Frax, Jordy from Selene, to then some leading on-chain traders as well, and some VCs like Ethereum, Web3 Ventures. Our most recent round we closed August of last year, and that was the one led by Bybit Ventures. It was actually the first investment made by Bybit Ventures. Their other investment arm, Marana and Mantle Ecosystem Fund, also invested. For them, this wasn't just like a regular investment. This was very much like a strategic deal. The Emily, who's the head of Bybit Ventures and advisor to Mantle, we very much share the same vision. She believes that the future of crypto is a combination of like on-chain plus the off-chain exchange, which is why she built BuyReal on Solana, and as she was building BuyReal, she recognized that launchpads are very important for any ecosystem, right? Because token creation is the source of activity on chain. If you don't have interesting tokens on chain, then like what are you going to trade, right? What are you going to do for like yield and lending and so on? So they were really looking for a quality launchpad team to work with. I think she really believed in the product vision and the quality of the team, and ended up wanting to work with us. And that was the main reason why Bybit led around. And from our side, even though we had quite a few options, we thought having like a special relationship with the second largest exchange was just going to give us the distribution that we're looking for as we're about to take this to market. And yeah, I think a lot of this partnership is just starting to be realized by the market. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff we're working on in the background that people will see soon.
Yeah, no, very cool. A couple smaller questions I had is, you guys obviously have had the Panda branding, I guess, like for a while. Was there any like specific like reason behind that, or just like you just picked it for fun?
I mean, we knew we were building a consumer product, so we wanted to have like a fun mascot that appealed to everyone. And we're thinking like, what animals appeals to everyone? Pandas. Everyone loves panda, right? Whether you're, Asian from the West, everyone loves panda. So then we thought, what's better than just a panda? Probably a fat panda. So that's how we came up with like the mascot. And in terms of the name, we were just like, I thought it'd be funny to call him like Fat Sai, which literally means good fortune or get rich in Chinese, and we just translated to English to like Fat Choi. So that's the mascot. He's definitely still around. I think someone launched a token of them, not from the team, to be clear. But yeah, the mascot is definitely still alive and around.
And like, what does the kind of like team at Printr look like, I guess, in terms of maybe like rough head count, and just like, what do you feel like the main skills of the guys on the team right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 13 of us right now. There's 8 of us on the engineering side, and then 5 of us on the go-to-market side. I think we have really one of the strongest teams in this. I know like when you're in launch pads or the trenches, people are really just worried about like price action. But from my years in crypto, I think the biggest signal of whether a team is going to build something successful and with longevity is who the team is, right? And I think when I look at the team that we have here at Printr, I'd say like we really have some of the best engineers. Half the team came from Axler along with me, and Axler, recently acquired by Circle, is well known to have some of the best engineering talent. I think we're great infra builders, great product builders. And then on the go-to-market team, we have Len, who comes from Pendle. He was one of the best APAC BD guys. We have Mark, who now leads our BD efforts. We just have also a very, very strong go-to-market team. Yeah, so people often ask us how are we going to compete with Pump? They have so much money. They've been around for so long. And I just say to them, look, you might have all the resources, but at the end of the day, it's about people. It's about talent. And I think that's what we have at Printr. And if you look at the product that we just shipped with V2 and the amount of functionality and features that we have, I think that comes off pretty strong when you compare what Pump has shipped in the last year. So, I mean, let the product and quality speak for itself.
And I guess also right now there's obviously, given Asteroid on ETH and I'd say general dismay amongst the Solana trading community, let's put it that way. You guys are kind of uniquely positioned in the sense that you do actually also support Ethereum natively, as well as also BSC for all Chinese related Binance crime people may want to participate in. Any thoughts around the kind of current state of meme coins across chains? And, do you think that any of the recent Ethereum stuff will actually last as a wider movement for trading these meme coins on Ethereum versus purely Solana, as it has been this cycle so far?
Great question. So let me be clear. I don't think the cross-chain thesis has been validated, as in, I don't think the market has shown that there is huge demand for launching a token on multiple chains with this built-in bridging in a bear market. I actually think this can still fly when liquidity comes back and macro improves. But there is no doubt in my mind that we are now in a multi-chain world. And what I mean by that is there's definitely activity on Solana. There's definitely lots of activity on BNB. There's definitely a lot of activity on Base and now a bit on ETH. And I think activity will keep shifting around between these different chains as different narratives or trends come. Absolutely. Will there be more fragmentation? Absolutely. So even though the omni-chain token creation hasn't really picked up, but the multi-chain infra we built is our biggest moat. We're able to scale to chains much faster than anyone else. I don't think anyone even has this capability to do so. So if we do really have an ETH season or Base season or BNB season, Printr is by far going to be in the best position to capture the market. Just frankly, because I don't think there's many quality launchpads on these chains, right? And if you look to the future, whether it's Kraken's new Ink chain or OKX ramping up their new X layer or Robinhood with their Arbitrum chain or even Upbid or Giwa, do I think there's probably going to be people that want to launch tokens there, the need for a launchpad? I can tell you that we're speaking to all these foundations and they're all very keen to work with something like Printr. So yeah, I do think the world is going more multi-chain and that we're probably in the best position to capture that.
I noticed you guys also have a full custom token launch suite where you can, set your kind of initial and graduation market cap, and you can slightly tailor the fees and stuff like that. Typically, I think my response to that is that I think one of the reasons Pump Fund was very successful is because they boxed everyone into one mechanism and didn't allow people to choose so much. But I do think it's good to have as an option for those who do want it with these more custom style launches. How has it kind of has there been much usage or any good reception around that? Or kind of what do you think about when it comes to allowing people different styles of launching on the same platform?
Yeah, so that was something we heard a lot, that people brought up that Pump's success is due to its simplicity. And I agree. I think a lot of people appreciate simplicity. So when we designed V2, it was really, I think, a delicate and thoughtful balance of how do we give users lots of customizations, but still make the token creation flow very simple and very quick. And if you can look at, the fact that we have these profiles, pre-selects, defaults, you can still create a token in a matter of seconds if you don't want to change anything. But if you are someone who has very strong preferences because you're a quality creator, you're able to do so. And I think so far what we've seen is there's actually lots of customization. Almost all of the quality teams are tweaking one element or another. So I do think, a lot of these creators are actually much more sophisticated than what people give them for. And they definitely appreciate a lot of this optionality. Um, what I will also say is, I don't think a lot of time the market knows what it wants. If you think about like the first car, I'm sure when the first car was introduced, I think this credits to Pump, right? I really think the model they've created, with this no code token creation and bonding curve instant liquidity was literally the transformation from going a horse to a car. But we've now had this car for almost like 2 years, and everyone thinks this is the best thing that the market is going to see, and we beg to differ. You know, I think the moment when people see a Porsche with all kinds of customization, they will realize, oh, having choice is actually kind of nice because I have very strong preferences. And I really think that's the moment we're in. We're going from the first car to a Porsche, and all of these customization is something that I think people are finally just starting to scratch the surface. But so far, the initial feedback is that people do love it.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, hopefully I would be interested to see if certain tokens do things in a certain way with regards to setting fees, and maybe you have like you can like copy the fee profile or the supply dynamics from one coin and like replicate it on your own coin as if you want to like kind of copy the meta, I guess, in some ways of putting it. Um
And I just want to double click on that, right? By giving optionality to the creator, we are actually also empowering traders. Why? Because now traders can actually vote with their money, vote with their wallet. If a token has high fees, you don't like it, don't buy it. If a token has too thin liquidity, you cannot buy it, right? These common complaints that we've seen today, now traders can actually choose which token they want to like support and take to higher. And that will send the ultimate messages to these creators. The market is very, very efficient, right? Like if we see the next 100 million runner or multiple runners are all like high liquidity, staking fee types, for just as an example, guess what? That's what more people are going to launch, right? And this is much better than the one size fits all model which Pump has, because today there is no choice. There's just like it's just the same token with right, and you can't choose any of these things, so everyone's just forced to buy the same thing. And this optionality, I think, really by giving choice back to the market empowers everyone.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. It'll be interesting to see like as people trade these tokens and stuff as well. If I saw you guys have like a 7-day, it's like a current like a 7-day minimum stake or something like that. I'd be interested to know if you guys think about introducing like a 1-day or 2-day, 3-day, or just like a almost like a variable slider or something like that. I think it would be cool as well.
The reason why we made the minimum 7-day stake is I think like the whole point is showing conviction and belief, right? Anything shorter than that doesn't really mean very much. I mean, if you don't want to stake for 7 days, you might as well just not stake. But then you also don't deserve the fees, right? You're more of a trader, not a holder, right? And also, it's not like we're only having the staking model. If the creator wants to create something that rewards everyone, all holders, just not stakers, right? The buyback and burn model is much suited for that, because all the fees goes towards buying back token. And when the token, gets bought back, reduces supply, moves the price up, it rewards everyone, not just the stakers. So we really think that we have like a fee type for everyone, depending on what they're trying to do.
Yeah, that's actually very fair. I was actually initially thinking about it with regards to, let's say you have a tweet play, a very viral, like something that is probably going to only last a day or two, but you want to like squeeze out a little bit of extra juice and like offer that to the holders. It like could be interesting, but you're probably right. It should just be like a buyback and burn kind of thing. Or even like add to liquidity. I know it's like another option you guys have. Any closing thoughts or things you want to kind of direct people to and check out who maybe are interested to learn more about Printr?
Yeah, I think my final comments is we definitely don't think we have all the answers. We're not so ignorant or arrogant enough to think we have all the answers. But what I will say is we have been actively listening for the last multiple months, and we are going to keep being actively listening now. My DMs are always open. I read every single message, and as long as it's not something crazy, I try to respond to every like meaningful message. And the whole team at Printr is like this. We want to be the most customer-centric, user-centric team in this space. And together, like we will build in public, and alongside with everyone's feedback, we will try to build the best product and make the space better. We will make the trenches great again.
Save the trenches. Awesome, Fed. Thank you very much for coming on. Printr go brr, and yeah, wish you best of luck building.
Thanks for having me, Nico. Appreciate it.
Awesome, thanks, man.